That works. All right. What can you tell me about the reaction from students with physical disabilities to campus housing? Do they feel that it's adequate or enough, or
I think so. The feedback that I've gotten has been pretty positive. Um, we have students who are wheelchair users live in multiple different halls across campus. I think the misconception is that all students in wheelchairs live in Neuer. Neuer is wonderful in terms of physical accessibility, all kinds of features that have been designed specifically for students in chairs. It's pretty centrally located, and there's a nice big dining facility right in the middle of it. That sure helps. But we have students in chairs in DeHort East, Due West, Kinghorn, maybe another place or two that this is not coming to mind initially. And the feedback I get is really good. And in some cases, chair users need a room to themselves. Maybe they're bringing extra equipment, sometimes like a hospital bed that they use. And maybe they're having attendant care, somebody, nursing care, to come in at various hours of the night. It just makes sense for those students in that situation, if the student requests it, to have a room, possibly a double room to themselves. And so in many cases, we want to, in all cases, we want to make sure space isn't an issue. So I think the feedback we get relative to housing is pretty positive. And again, a lot of that is that the hall staff, the residence hall staff, is very responsive to the needs of chair users. But if they need some of the furniture that's in residence hall rooms, if it needs to be taken out for a chair user, the hall staff is great about doing that. So the feedback is positive, I think, to answer your question.
What can you tell me about housing surrounding Ball State, and such as the numerous apartment complexes?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a lot of expertise as to what's going on there. I do know that probably most of it is not going to be terribly accessible. A lot of the homes where students live, 3-4 students, and there's probably not going to be great access there. Some of the apartment complexes, we've had chair users live in some of the apartment complexes off campus. For example, I know 2 of our chair users moved just a couple of months ago to Silver Tree Apartments, and it's been a really good experience for them. I always tell students, if you're going to move off campus, good for you, you have the same opportunities as everybody else, but do your homework.
Right.
And if a landlord says that he or she will do something for you to make access, and get it in writing before you move in, and certainly take a look at the apartment complex, the specific apartment that you'll live in, before making that jump. We can guarantee access on campus, but when you get off campus, it can be a little dicier. But we've had several students in chairs live off campus over the years, and I think things have worked pretty well for them. But they really need to do their homework before they do that.
Silver Tree is actually what sparked me to write this paper. I live in Silver Tree. I just moved in, and I was finding that my apartment, the peephole is really high. There are just different things. The kitchen is very narrow. There's not a whole lot of turn radius. The 5-foot in the bathroom is definitely not there. So that's what sparked me to write this paper.
Interesting. And it's not every unit would need to be accessible within the complex. And I think what the law says, and this would get more into the Fair Housing Act than the ADA, the Fair Housing Act says if it's reasonable, if a person with a disability wanted to move into an apartment, the landlord would have to let that person make the modifications needed to make it work. But I think the 2 students that I know of that live in Silver Tree, they were in a week or 2 ago and talked about how much they liked it and all that. So
well, that's good to hear.
I guess, I don't know those apartments terribly well, so it's right on a bus line, I think, which they're pretty pleased about. So so at least there must be some commitment by the owners of Silver Tree to make some access there, at least in one unit.
Right. I have an interview set up with them as well, so
good.
I'll find out about that.
And they may refer you to those 2 students that I was mentioning. So
good. Does this office, okay, well, I guess we answered that. It was just, does this office associate or have any connections with housing outside of Ball State? So.
In years past, I've made some attempts just to check on, to contact some very limited response from landlords off campus and give me feedback, which tells me that there's probably not a whole heck of a lot of access that they're creating for students in their apartments. But No, not a whole lot of contact with off-campus landlords.
Alright. In this or if this office were to call for change anywhere on campus, what do you think that would be like?
In terms of?
Just for more accessibility for students
Yeah.
on campus.
I don't know that there's one specific thing that necessarily comes to mind. Again, there are places that I would like to see more accessible. I don't know. In some of the older buildings on campus, University Theater, I'd like to see a little bit more accessible. Markle Hall is a mess. It's accessible, but it's not easy. I'd like to see every sidewalk, brand new and that type of thing. But typically when a student presents a problem to me, or when I'm out about on campus and I see something that's problematic, I'll contact the people in facilities, and more often than not, they'll get the job done. And for example, right outside my window, at this intersection here on University and Tally, the curb over here was in bad shape. I contacted facilities, and gosh, 2 or 3 weeks later, a brand new curb cut was put in out here. So I've got a nice relationship with the people that do the work in facilities, and again, they're pretty responsive. So if a door opener's not working, we'll give them a call and say, hey, this push button door opener's not working, and they usually get on things pretty quickly. But again, I think it comes back to, we have a lot of students on campus with disabilities, and so the people in facilities, I think, especially see it as a priority and want to make sure that there's good access. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that answers it very well.
Good.
And then the same for the surrounding community, if you could make any change on that.
If I could make one change within Muncie, the surrounding community, I would start in the village. We have a big population of people with disabilities at Ball State, but it is exceptionally difficult for them, once they get off campus, to get where they need to go. I mean, the sidewalks in the village are in pretty poor shape. And I've contacted the mayor's office recently and said, I know that there's a push in Muncie we talk about better accessibility within the city of Muncie, and a great place to start would be just east of campus in the village, since we have so many people here on campus. So that would be my first thing, is better access in the village area.
And do you have any last comments that you think would assist me in my research for this paper at all?
It sounds like you've done some good stuff, talking about the ADA. I wish I could tell you some students on campus during the summer that you can talk to, but it's just so limited with students with disabilities, or students in general during the summer. But yeah, nothing immediately comes to mind. I'm certainly happy if you have follow-up questions. Don't hesitate to call, email, whatever. I'd be happy to help.
Can I actually get your email?
Sure. It's just Markle, Markle, @bsu.edu.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with me. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And this will be very much helpful for me.
Good. Hopefully it goes well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Turn this off real quick.